Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to talk about the difference between half diminished and full diminished chords and scales. Starting with the half diminished chord, this is essentially a minor 7 chord with a flat 5. So if I've got an A string root, the shape will look like this. If I've got the low E string as a root, it would look like this. And if I've got a D string root, it would look like this. So what scales can we play over a half diminished chord? Let's look at an example. I'm going to put us in the key of D natural minor. So in this key, the most likely half diminished chord we're going to see will be E half diminished. And we can play the E half diminished arpeggio over this chord, which sounds pretty good. If we wanted to play a full scale over that chord, we can just use all the notes of our D natural minor, the key that we're in, starting on E, which sounds like this. Which is essentially an E Locrian scale. If we wanted to add a little more harmonic interest, what we can do is play our E half diminished scale. What does that look like? It's essentially like that Locrian scale I just did, but we're going to make the second note sharp. So instead of having an F natural, that will now be an F sharp, which looks like this. And that's particularly interesting because, of course, F sharp doesn't belong in our D natural minor scale, so it adds a little bit more harmonic color over that E half diminished chord. Let's look at an example lick in this key. So now thinking about full diminished chords, the way these work is we start with the root note and then we're just stacking minor thirds on top of it. So for example, if my root note is A, my first minor third would be C, and then the next minor third would be E flat. So that would give me my diminished triad of A, C, and E flat. And technically diminished chord is just that, a triad. However, on guitar, we're always much more likely going to be playing diminished 7 chords, which are 4-note diminished chords. It still has the exact same quality to the sound, it's just that we've essentially added one more minor third on top of the chord. So the way that shape would look if we've got a low E string root is like this. If I've got an A string root, it would look like this. And finally, if I've got a D string root, it would look like this. So what kind of scales can we play over our diminished chords? Well, much like we saw with the half diminished chord, we can just play our diminished arpeggio. Let's say, for example, I had a D diminished chord. My D diminished arpeggio would look like this. And the really cool thing with the arpeggios, much like with the chords, is that you can just move it up and down 3 frets and you're always going to have the exact same shape. So say, for example, this one here. However, if we wanted to play a full scale over our diminished chord, we can play, unsurprisingly, the diminished scale. The way this is constructed is we're essentially alternating between having a tone interval followed by a semitone, then a tone, then a semitone, etc. For example, if I was doing my A diminished scale, it would look like this. Let's look at a couple of example licks using the diminished scale. So the first example is going to be using the diminished chord as just like a passing chord from a D major to a D sharp diminished, resolving to a E minor 7. In the second example, we got something a little bit more bluesy in the key of E. So what happens in the sequence is we go to our 4 chord, the A7, and we then follow that by an A sharp diminished. And over that chord in particular, we could do something which sounds quite out there in the diminished scale, particularly in a blues context, but I still think it works. Let's check it out.